Hey, good morning. Thanks, Amanda, for letting me join in today with you guys. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mark Arianes, the Air Force ROTC Detachment Commander here, and Mr. John Dowling is supposed to be joining us. Hopefully, he'll log in here in a minute. He's over on the Army side. He's their recruiting officer. He's a retired colonel from the Army. I've got next month will be 32 years of active duty service, primarily in aircraft maintenance. And this is kind of a special duty assignment for us when we come to universities and do this job. So what I'll do is I'll share screens and go through some slides here. Let's see if that will pop up. All right, is that working? Everybody sees the slides on that one?
Yes, we can see those.
You probably see the one with all the overviews, notes, and all that stuff too. So anyway, this is our program. The two are very similar. ROTC, Army and Air Force, pretty much run the same type of program, but there's some variances there. So we'll go over the cadet life cycle, what they. Oh, John says he can't get past the registration page. I don't know if you can help us get John in here.
Yes, just give me 1 second. He just, I think,
Okay.
sent me an email too, so I'll try to work with him.
Okay, give me 1 second here, let him jump in. I think I lost all of it too. You still there?
Yes, I'm still here. I was
Oh.
just trying to see if I can get John in. Jen, are you on here? Jen Clutter?
Yeah, what can I do?
So John says he can't get past the registration screen.
Oof, okay. Is he registering with his WVU account?
Let me.
And I registered like literally this morning, and I just had to go through my dual authentication to get on the meeting as a user. Like I got the error that you said you got when you tried to attend.
Okay.
And I had to do my duo and it worked fine.
Okay. Freddie says he had to use his mix, so let me make sure he's using his mix.
Okay. I don't have cameras anymore, but I can hear everybody. I just can't.
And Susan said she had to click sign in with SSO. Okay, perfect. So hopefully John is able to, I emailed him those tips. So we will just wait for him to come in.
Okay. Do y'all still see my screen or nothing?
I just see you right now. I don't see your
Oh
screen.
geez. Well, y'all don't want to look at that. Okay. I'm not sure why mine won't go back to a share screen. I don't have any of the Zoom on here at all. Clicking buttons.
Okay, he says he's gonna try his mix.
Okay.
just want to thank everybody for your patience with the technological issues since we've had the dual authentication added to our process.
Mark, do you care if while we're trying to get John in?
We can, if you could give me share screen again. I think I disabled that somehow, but I'll press on with John because he's got a few slides down.
Okay, perfect. So you should have co-host again.
Okay, there we go. I'm back at it again.
Okay, perfect.
Share screen. Bring it up. Okay. So hopefully y'all see the one that says academic advisor. Where did it go?
I see cadet life cycle.
Cadet life cycle. Okay, that's good. All right, we'll go with that. Okay, so cadet life cycle, we'll go over these a couple of things, so I'll catch us up. Resume slideshow. Why is this not going? Let's go. Come on, please. Okay, do you see ROTC is a 4-year program?
No, we still see cadet life cycle.
What is going on here? I apologize. We do this every day in class and then I can't make it work. All right, which one am I on? See if I can do this without. I'm going to stop sharing screen and we're going to try it one more time and then we'll press. Okay, this should be giving me, I said I shared the slideshow.
So yeah, now we see the academic advisor need to know.
Okay, okay, now it says cadet life cycle overview.
Yes.
All right, there we go. I'll catch us up. Okay, so both of these are 4-year programs. For ROTC, the Air Force side, we consider our sophomore and freshman general military course cadets, so GMC. The Army is going to call them MS1s and MS2s. That's essentially your freshman and sophomore, first year, second year. For our professional officer course, that's our juniors and seniors. So the chart here pretty much shows what a standard cadet life cycle looks like. USAF 100 on the Air Force side is our leadership lab. Every cadet takes that every single semester that they're in our program for 4 years. The 131, 132 is the freshman, and it moves on up. That divide between GMC and POC for us is where they meet a national headquarters Air Force ROTC board to determine their placement nationally among all sophomores and whether they get a selection to continue on the program. And it's really based on the Air Force projected needs 2 years from that spring semester. So right now, the end of this month, the board's going to meet for the 2024 or 2025, if they're a 5-year cadet graduates, and they're saving officer positions for them this far out. So that's what a standard cadet would look like. If we go to the next slide here, we can't accelerate that. If they've had junior ROTC in high school, if they've had Civil Air Patrol with a couple of awards within those programs, I'm allowed to waive 1 or 2 semesters of ROTC. If they don't, and you guys get somebody that's either done a year of WVU and decide, hey, I've got some friends in ROTC, I think it's kind of cool, I'm a sophomore, can I join? They still can. And so the top bar here represents how we accelerate that program. So they essentially will double up on the academic portion. They'll take 131 and 251 in the fall, and then 132, 252 in the spring, and that catches them up to meet that national board that happens in January. Once they get accepted and they come back after the field training in the summer, all cadets finish, they have to do 4 semesters of our junior senior year in order to graduate. So there's really no acceleration after that point. If they join halfway through their freshman year, the bottom chart kind of explains that. So we need to accelerate, but not too fast. If we doubled up in spring, fall, they would have no more academic class to take in that sophomore spring year. So what we'll do is they take the fall course, they'll double up. I'm sorry, they'll take the spring course. They'll double up in the fall, and they'll go back to a spring course, just the 252 course. And that lines them all up with the rest of their peers. So far, that makes sense. I'll make that bigger for us. So that's the way the Air Force works. John may have a different route on how the Army can catch up and accelerate their folks. I don't know if he's on yet or not. Okay.
I am not seeing John on yet.
Not yet. Okay. And I can talk to a little bit of his when we get to the next slide for him. So how does a WVU student qualify for ROTC? There's really no application process for that. As long as they're accepted by the university, they can take USAF 131 to start. If they want to be a cadet, they have to take the Leadership Lab USAF 100. So if they are accelerating, they have less time to graduate, then what I ask is you advise them on, you can join, you don't have to have applications in just to be part of the program. But I ask that you have them call us directly, because they may have things from outside of their normal education, whether it be junior ROTC or Civil Air Patrol, that I can give them credit for, and they can just skip 1 or 2 semesters and not have to double up on those academics. It also helps us kind of start planning on how to put them in with the rest of the cadet structure and where we think they will fall. So there's no application needed. They do have to be a full-time WVU student or a full-time student at one of our crosstowns. And so both of us have cadets at Fairmont State and at Waynesburg up in Pennsylvania. They either have to be a citizen or become a citizen prior to contracting or commissioning. So I know we have a pretty significant foreign exchange type or foreign nationals that come in and take school here. If they want to do ROTC, they can take it as an elective. But if they're interested in commissioning as an officer, they have to have the intent at some point to become a U.S. citizen. For the physical standards, they do not have to meet the standards before they join. We do, the ones that I talk to now that are planning on joining in the fall, I just tell them that they need to spend the summer, off the couch, do some working out, do some push-ups, do some runs. They don't have to pass the physical fitness test the very first time we do PT. For our program, I expect them to have a passing fitness score by at least their second semester of their freshman year. The way I look at it is an enlisted person goes to basic training for 8 weeks and they pass at the end of 8 weeks. And we're giving cadets here that are wanting to be officers and leaders essentially 8 months, the 2 semesters, to get physically fit to pass. So my standard is if they don't have that commitment by the time of the end of the spring semester, then we'll drop them as a cadet. In general, it's a 1.5 mile run. There's a minute of push-ups, as many as they can do in a minute, and as many sit-ups as they can do in 1 minute. And there's a chart. You get more points the faster you go. So the basic standards to get the 75 points to pass is pretty much 11:56 or faster for males, 14 minutes for females. The push-ups, if they can do 44 or better for males and 27 for females, that'll get them in the ballpark. And then in under a minute of sit-ups, it's 45 for guys and 42 for girls. There is a body fat percentage, but that's kind of getting more technical. We just looked at if you're advising someone that's kind of heavy, there's a 20% body fat for males and 28% for females that they're going to have to get. That's nothing that you need to worry about today, but usually if they're a few pounds over, by the time we get close to the end of the spring semester, we've run them enough around campus that they should be good. GPAs are not, they don't have to have 4.0s engineering cadets. The higher the GPA is, the better they will compete nationally come their sophomore year. But just to stay in the program, it has to be a 2.0. If they're on an Air Force scholarship, either the high school scholarship they're coming with, or I give them an in-college scholarship, they have to maintain a 2.5. And that's term and cumulative. So we have a few cadets occasionally that have a pretty decent cumulative, and then they have a really hard semester and they end up with if they're on scholarship, they get a 2.2, 2.3. That doesn't mean they're out. What that does for me is we counsel them and tell them that they've got to study harder next semester. And they really need to do well that next semester to bring that term back up above the 2.5 and maintain the cumulative 2.5 or 2.0 if they're not on scholarship. If they can't do that by their second semester, it's pretty much a probationary thing that we do internally. If they can't get above that standard the second semester, then it's typically a debt drop. Air Force ROTC's got a pretty high competition that they're going to keep the best and let those others figure out another path. If they're on scholarship as well, they fall below a 2.5, the Air Force is going to take that scholarship away. So that's something that those that are coming to you should know already, but when you talk to them about scholarships and maintaining their full-time student status, they need to be aware of their scholarships. I would ask this too, on engineering students, the Air Force has a handful of 5-year Secretary of the Air Force approved programs. Most of those are within the engineering. We've got cadets that come in here that are really smart from high school and say, hey, I can knock out my engineering degree in 4 years. We highly advise that they spread that out to 5. It's authorized by the Air Force to take 5 years to complete it. What the statistics show typically is if they have one semester that they don't do well, fail a few classes and have to come back and take another semester to make those up, it pushes their degree plan out. And so we'd rather them not have a 20 or 22 hour course load in engineering for 4 straight years. Just spread that out a little bit, make it a little bit more manageable. And the other thing with that is the degree plans. I don't think most students worry about having their advisors put degree plans in degree works that says this is when I will graduate. But for ROTC, particularly as they go into that sophomore year, it's really, really important that the advisors and the student and ROTC are all on the same page when we expect them to graduate. And that really leads to that national board that when ROTC is handing out those officer billets 2 years or 3 years, if they're in a 5-year plan, they're looking that 3rd year out. Once they allocate that officer's billet, they're pretty much locked into that. So if they decide to change majors or slip a semester and add to their college, that messes up that expectation of when we're going to give them an Air Force job. And so it's pretty important, not so much as a freshman, but particularly that end of that first semester as a sophomore, they need to be really focused on and have a really good plan on when they're going to graduate. Okay. I don't know if
John's here.
he's here. Okay. Hey, John.
Peace. You done?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to you for a slide or two.
All right, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Well, first, thanks, Kayla, for giving the opportunity to talk to the advisors. Every year I struggle with how to get my information out. I'm going to stick to a little bit very narrow. That ROTC is very intricate and Army is a little different than Air Force. Or different paths. Students come in the side door and stuff. And what I really want to just focus on is that advisors know how to get students enrolled in what the appropriate classes, particularly in regards to freshmen and sophomores who are coming in and expressing interest in ROTC. I will tell you, bottom line, if you have any questions about any of the Army ROTC cadets, my contact information is on here. Give me a call. My cell number is there and my email address is there. I'd like to give a shout out to, I was looking through the gallery, Lawrence, Freddie, and Colton have all I dealt with pretty regularly, and I appreciate their support. We tend to have students that get in nested in a couple different academic programs. So the important part when students come in is that we get them academically aligned in the right class right off the bat. Army ROTC sequential. So it goes 101, 102 the freshman year, and then 201, 202, 301, 302, 401, 402. And it is a GEF that's available to any student that can take it as a filler. We do get some juniors and seniors once in a while looking for let me not say an easy A, but a very challenging class that's fairly easy to do well in. We'll take military science 101 or 201 just as a filler to build up some credits. But students, particularly freshmen coming in order they can just take the GEF, which is MilSci 101. But ROTC is a lot of out of the classroom activities. The two biggest ones being what we call to fully participate in ROTC. They also take the leadership lab, which is on Thursday afternoons from 2:30 to 6:30. And they also do physical training 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And there is a 1 credit PE class that's associated with that. That is voluntary, but if they're going to be here 3 days a week, we want to give them a little extra credit and help keep their GPAs boosted a little bit. But I ask if you schedule kids for ROTC. I've had issues with academic advisors in the past where they have, particularly some of the more difficult STEM degrees, have plugged in the calculus, physics, and English 101 and a GEF, and I don't have room to put anything in there, and certainly don't have room for a 4-hour Army ROTC leadership lab on Thursday afternoons. If you could kind of put those ROTC classes in first and build around them, if it's possible, it would help us out a little bit. The lab on Thursday afternoons is the out-of-class experiential part of ROTC, and honestly, they probably get more out of the lab in terms of hands-on Army leadership than they would sitting in the classroom for 2 credit hours a week. However, I do realize there are challenges, particularly with STEM majors. There seems to be a lot of chemistry labs that are given on Thursday afternoon, particularly for my engineers, that we have sometimes trouble scheduling. For freshmen, that is not super critical. If you get them in a MilSci class, 2 credit hours and the PE class at a minimum, that'll suffice. When you schedule students for military science, there is you'll see there might be 5 offerings for military science. The one that's usually listed first in Schedule Builder or STAR typically doesn't have a date or a location associated with it. It is an independent study class, and it's the first one people go to, and it's the easy one that has no conflicts with it because it's made up between them and the instructor. We don't want them in the independent study class only as a last resort. We want them sitting in classroom where they're getting interaction with other students. However, if you can't fit any other MilSci class in, you can plug them into the independent study, which, as again I said, does not have a day or a date and a time or a location associated with it. Just as an aside, History 210 is a commissioning and contracting requirement for ROTC cadets. So if you have a student who is interested in ROTC, both the freshman or somewhere else, History 210 is an easy GEF to get them plugged into. Even the freshman year, students tend to do fairly well in it. It's not an extremely challenging course without a little bit of work that they can reasonably get an A or a B into. So if you're looking for a GEF, that might be a good GEF to plug in for a Army ROTC student right off the bat. Next slide, Joel.
You jump there. There you go.
There we go. Thanks. I won't go into great depth with the 104R. Some of you probably have experience with it. I know Lawrence does. Lawrence is so good. He does Army academic plans better than me, and I've been doing them 8 years. So they're a little bit complicated if you don't do them all the time. Really what we're trying to do is assess where a student is right now with their prior credit and plot out the present semester and any future semester so we can arrive at a graduation date because it factors into what benefits the students receive. So it's very similar to the major maps that are on, and that's what I actually tell students to go to. Students should bring these academic plans to you. There are some advisors like Lawrence who will type them out and do them for students. It's sometimes just a little bit easier. But if you have a student that comes to you and say, hey, I need this, tell that student politely, like, I think you're supposed to bring to me your plan and I'll evaluate and assess it, see if it's reasonable, make any changes. A lot of times I will kind of nug out the nuts and bolts of the plan for a student on a piece of paper in pencil and have them fill in the extra GEFs and major courses according to DegreeWorks, and have them take that to you guys in a hand jam copy with a pencil, have you make any adjustments, and then have them go back to their residence type it out in a PDF and then send it to you for a signature and final approval. So essentially you're just doing a sanity check to ensure that, they're taking reasonable semesters, 15, 18 hours. ROTC and 20, 21 credit hour semesters are rather challenging. Could we do one semester like that? Yeah, it's pretty reasonable, but I would hesitate to do that more than one. It would have to be kind of an extreme situation where they're going to get out and graduate and commission, and they have to get everything in one particular semester as opposed to stretching it out to another one. Lawrence says, if you save the plan electronically, then it's less work in future semesters. What a great tip. So the students will, if they have if they get a D or an F and have to repeat a class, we can go back in, and actually we'll take pen and ink changes too on the original plan. Having a nice clean one's always good, but we'll take pencil changes. A lot of times the easiest solution for a 104R adjustment is just to flip-flop a class that they have to take and just move it into the future and pull one into one that's available that semester. Just beware, doing summer school semesters for ROTC cadets can often be very challenging, particularly between the 3rd and 4th year, because all Army ROTC cadets go away to Fort Knox for training. There is a way where we can fit either the first summer session and then send them away to training, or the second session, but they won't be able to do both in that semester. And a lot of times it's difficult because the classes that they might need might not be offered in that semester or in that session where we have to send them over the summer. We do have an independent study class that can be used as a filler. A lot of times, a lot of our students take off a semester to go to basic training in AIT, which is common for ROTC cadets. Particularly for freshmen. When they come back, we will often put them in that military science 495 filler in the fall semester because they haven't had that yet, and then let them pick up where they left off with military science 102 and then go 202 or 201, 202, 301, 302. 401, 402 and commission and graduate, and then maybe use that 495 also as an extra semester for the fall of that year that they got pushed to the right because they took off. For you advisors, you'll have the student plot everything out. They will also fill out block 5, which gives them essentially what it says is that you have 120 hours or whatever the total is for a degree. Normal progression is 15 hours a semester. They already have 60 semester hours completed. It'll come out and give you a number at the bottom. That number on the block 5 should equal how many semesters they have left of school. So that's kind of a check in there. You don't have to worry about that a great deal, but the student should bring that to you kind of filled out. You sign the bottom of block 12 on page 2, and then just give it a sanity check to make sure it all makes sense, meets all their degree requirements, and the student should know what the military science requirements are, and then just hand that back to them, and then they'll come and we'll do the final signatures. As I mentioned before, if you do have any questions with this form, let me know. One challenge we have had, particularly because of COVID, because a lot of academic advisors have been working remotely, is using Adobe Acrobat and some other method of getting a hard or a wet signature on the document. And I realize some of you may not have scanners and printers at home. I have taken emails from advisors and said, hey, I approve this plan, and marry it up with the document. That'll certainly suffice for us. If you can sign it though, would it be appreciated? That way we have a record of it, we can archive it. And as Lawrence mentioned, we can always go back in and make changes to it. Appreciate the support from the academic advising community. We're very fortunate to have a very military friendly campus here. A lot of you all and other people on campus realize that, you know, the future of America's military lies a lot in Mountaineer cadets, both Army and Air Force, and are very supportive when they have requirements that need to be done. So I appreciate your support in that and look forward to that support in the future. And if there's anything I can do to help you out on your end, certainly let me know. If any of you are involved, and I know some advisors are on the recruiting end of students, Army ROTC is non-degree specific, so we'll take students from any accredited degree program here at WVU. If you have a student that's maybe not the greatest student, but they have great leadership abilities, appear to be somewhat athletic, and are looking for a career path in life, Army ROTC might be a good option for them. Recommend maybe they take the MilSci 101 or 102 as a GEF just to kind of get a taste of it. And then they might decide, hey, this is something that I really want to do. But if you deal with recruiting at all and you have groups of students, whether it's a 191 class or whatever, I'm always available and interested in being a guest speaker at any of those classes to maybe talk about military careers and some opportunities that we might have to offer in the Army now. Certain degree programs might marry up with certain career opportunities that they may have be looking for. Popular degree programs that we put a lot of students in are criminology, international studies, history. We have our handful of engineers and other STEM majors, and also nurses too. We usually commission 1 or 2 Army nurses a year. So if you have recruiting opportunities, factor me into your plans. If you need someone to be a guest speaker in a class for a day or a 191, I'm certainly interested. Does anybody have any questions? If no, that's the case. I am done with this, but you have my contact information. If you need it, by all means, reach out to me. Let me know. I also counsel some students who may not be in ROTC that are interested in the military as a career, both officer and enlisted. Did this for almost 34 years on the officer side. I commissioned and graduated here from WVU. So I know a little bit about the military, even outside the Army. So certainly always willing to offer my 2 cents and provide a little guidance where a student might need it. So thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. And I'll just add on to what John talked about. Our program is very, very similar together. There is no military commitment on the Air Force side as a freshman or sophomore, just like the Army is, unless they're on an Air Force scholarship, and then we have them contract right away to start getting that money to flow. If they're in one of those Secretary of the Air Force approved 5-year programs, or if they're a sophomore coming to WVU and want to do the full program and they're in a 5-year engineering program, there's no reason to accelerate, because if they're a sophomore, they'll do their sophomore, junior, or they'll do their 4 years remaining in the 5-year program and can do that in conjunction with ROTC. If they're in a 5-year program starting as a freshman, they're going to finish up ROTC academics at the end of their 4th year. That's enough for us for the ROTC requirement, but we still need a degree. So what we do there is we put them in what we call like a super senior category, where they only register for our leadership lab, and they'll come to PT and lead lab once a week, and then they'll finish up their degree plan. And then once they get the WVU degree done, then we have the qualifications needed to commission. So we've got a little bit of leeway left and right. Along with our credits as well, they can earn a leadership minor. I think they've got to take a couple other classes through the university, but if they take all 4 years of my academics, they can get a leadership minor. So they don't necessarily have to be a cadet. They can be a WVU student and be a participant in ROTC. They only take the academics. They wouldn't do the lead lab, and they can come out with a leadership minor at the end. Okay, so what does it take for cadet? There's one thing that the students may ask you guys. If they're a freshman or sophomore, for us, it's about 5 hours a week. There's 1 hour academics that we offer. We offer it twice a week, so they can work that within their schedule. Leadership lab is 2 hours. Ours is Wednesday. This coming semester will be Wednesday from 6 to 8 a.m. And then there's 1 hour PT twice a week, and we do that Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. As you can see, both of those happen for the most part before any classes start. We have a few cadets that have 8 a.m. classes, and we'll let them cut out a lead lab a little bit early to get there. But for the most part, that we try to deconflict from all other classes. I'm like John, I would ask that particularly as we get to our junior, senior level, it's very hard to pull that 3-hour academic class that's required to deconflict 17 cadets with all their engineering, criminology, journalism courses. So sometimes it's impossible. There's one class offered once a semester. And if you miss that, then you've got to wait a whole year to get back on cycle. So if I ask that when you build those degree plans, if there's classes, like John said, if they can move it one semester forward or backwards and it deconflicts, then the schedule builder usually gives them a couple of options of courses. If it comes down to it, I'll do class overrides, and then the cadets here know that the default is always we can teach from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., which nobody really likes that early of a day, but that's what I've done the last couple of years is my juniors and seniors get taught it from 5 to 8 a.m. Because we can't get 17 classes to line up. But that's what ends up making the 7 hours for the professional officer courses, juniors and seniors, is their academic classes longer. Okay, and that's the one there. So some frequently asked questions that we get: am I committed to the Air Force if I join ROTC? And that's not the case. Only if they're on the high school scholarship program or they get one of my scholarships their second semester here. If they get that enrollment allocation in the spring of their sophomore year, they go to our 2-week field training in Alabama, and when they come back within 10 days of their junior semester starting, then we'll contract them, and then they're on the hook for the Air Force because they've saved an officer billet there at the end. Can they quit? Absolutely. If they're non-contracted, they can try this out for 1 to 4 semesters, and if they don't like it, they can quit at any time. If they're contracted on scholarship, or they have become a junior, then there's a disenrollment investigation we do on the internally to us that will determine whether they either owe the scholarship back or they owe some active duty time to the Air Force. They do not have to be on scholarship in order to join. I had mentioned that before. Anybody can, they don't have to apply and qualify for it. They just can sign up just like any other elective and take our courses. We do not wear uniforms all the time. Uniforms are required for our leadership lab and the academic class. And then we have PT gear that we issue out for our PT. There's really no out-of-pocket expense for any uniforms, except for their freshman year. We don't issue uniforms right away, so they need to come with khaki pants, but we give them a detachment polo, we give them the PT gear, and then in their second semester, we'll give them a uniform kind of like this one. So they don't have to purchase the uniforms or the det polos or anything like that. And that's pretty much what I had for our briefing. I do appreciate your time. If there's any other specific questions outside of the ones that we kind of typically get there, John and I will both be here and glad to answer. And again, I thank you for taking time out of your meeting to let us kind of explain our programs and how you could help the cadets and students and help us get through WVU and ROTC at the same time.
Great. Thank you guys so much for presenting. That information was very helpful. I know I learned a lot of things, so that is great. And then we also have a copy of your slides that we can share. Does anybody else have any questions before we move on to our next presenter? All right, so seeing none, now we're going to have Robin Shannon to share some information about the ESEA survey that kind of talks a little bit about our military students and transfer students. So Robin, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Kayla. And hopefully, there we go. Hopefully you're seeing a blue screen that says ESEA results spring 2020. So we've given the ESEA 3 times, fall of 2018, spring of 2019, and spring of 2020, just before we all went remote. And the results from the 3 administrations are remarkably similar. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the results from the spring 2020. When I saw that we were going to be talking about ROTC today and also transfer students, those are 2 groups in particular that we asked to identify in the administration of this survey. So I'm going to explain in a little bit of detail these two slides so you know what to look for in the other slides I show you. When we gave the survey in 2020, we had almost 12,000 responses, very robust data set. The respondents were asked to rate 5 statements along a scale of agreement or disagreement. The top graph shows all 4 categories. In the bottom graph, I've collapsed both of the agree categories and both of the disagree categories so that the graph is a little bit easier to look at. What was interesting to, and most of the graphs, other graphs I'll show you will be this collapsed view with just 2 parts of the bar. What was interesting to me as we looked at the different groups of students was that for most of the groups, was professional or courteous and courteous came out at the top, and identified other resources came out at the bottom. And the 3 in the middle tended to switch around a bit, but have very little difference between them. So the biggest gaps were between the top bar and the second bar, and the bars are arranged longest, strongly agree, or strongly or somewhat agree, to shortest. So most agreement to least agreement. So was the biggest gaps were between the top bar and the second bar, and then between the 4th bar and the 5th bar, or the bottom bar, and very little difference among the 3 bars in between. So we had several categories that we invited students to identify with, and these 2 graphs show percentage or numbers of students in each of those categories. Now, you'll notice probably right away that these are not mutually exclusive categories, right? A transfer student could also be 25 or older. An athlete could also be a GI benefits student, and so on. So just to give you an idea, since the other 2 parts of today's workshop are on transfer students and military students, ROTC students specifically, I thought this would be a good time to just show some of the data from the ESEA related to those groups of students. For this survey, we invited respondents to identify as a GI benefits recipient, a veteran student, or an active duty student. So I'm going to show you graphs from all 3 of those, as well as transfer students. So I really appreciated John's comment that we're a military-friendly campus. I think the results from the ESEA show that, and I'll explain that a little more in a minute. GI benefits include both dependents, active duty, and veterans. And given the numbers we had of active duty and veterans, it appears that most of the students who identified as GI benefits recipients are dependents. So what you'll see here is that the y-axis, the bars are in the same order, and for each of those statements, the students receiving GI benefits rated their advisor a little bit higher than the respondents as a whole. And the same is true of the veteran students. So again, those categories in the middle changed around a little bit, but the scores are very similar, ranging just a couple percentage points. Top and bottom bars are the same. And if you compare the score on each of those bars in the graph below with the same bar above, you'll see that veterans rated their advisors a little bit better than the respondents as a whole. And again, similarly with active military duty students. Similar kind of pattern with the bars in almost the same order. Top and bottom bars are the same. And again, these students rating their advisors a little bit better than respondents as a whole, except for the bottom bar, which is identical. So what is particularly interesting as we look through all of those different categories of students, the only one that deviated from this pattern of the highest rating was for professional and courteous, the lowest rating for identified other resources, and very little difference in the three in the middle was among transfer students. So you can see from this bar that transfer students found their advisor less accessible than the respondents as a whole, and also found their advisor to be professional and courteous less often than the respondents as a whole. So I know these bars with the 4 parts are a little bit hard to look at, but I think for this one particularly, it's because it differs from the typical pattern that we saw. It's interesting to look at where the difference really was. Was it just in the strongly agree? Was it just in the strongly disagree? Was it in the bars in the middle? So for the other, this last graph, I've just collapsed these again, because again, the bar is easier to look at. So professional and courteous respondents as a whole said 94% agree, only 88% of transfer students. Accessible, 92% of respondents overall, 84% of transfer students. Could answer questions, 91% respondents overall, 90% of transfer students. So that is that one's very similar. Was clear about my responsibility. 89% of respondents overall, and 93% of transfer students. So what they are getting from their advisors, apparently, is a very clear understanding of what their responsibilities are. Accessible, 92% overall, and 84% for transfer students. So one of the things I thought about as I looked at these results, compared all the different groups to the respondents as a whole, is that expectations are possibly quite likely different for transfer students. And we know that their needs are different. It might be that in some cases, at least, they feel like their needs are not particularly well understood. And I was also going to mention that the difference is not because there's overlap with the 25 and older category, because those students show a very similar pattern to the respondents as a whole. So I think it's safe to say that it's not the non-traditional or older students coming back and transferring as part of that are having an experience that's quite different from respondents as a whole. So happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Robin. Anyone have any questions for Robin? All right, seeing no questions, I will go ahead and turn it over to Taylor Richmond with the Office of the University Registrar.
All right, thanks, Kayla. Hello, everyone. Long time no see or hear from. I know it's been quite some time since I've graced/harassed one of these meetings, so I'm glad to be back. I'm gonna share my screen. And let's do slideshow from the beginning. Okay, everybody see? Hopefully.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
here.
can see it.
Okay, great. So just a few things to go over, and then more than likely, most of the time will be pitchforks and torches and questions. So I'll get through what I have and then be happy to answer anything that you all have for me and my team. But just as a way of updates for those who I haven't spoken with, I think since the last time I've been at an AAC, my position has changed. I'm now filling the role of Associate Registrar for transfer and regional campuses. So I still oversee the transfer unit in OUR in Morgantown, but also assisting Potomac State and Tech. And the position that I previously held is not currently filled. And as of the beginning of this year, those of you who know and or worked with Barb Boyd down at the Beckley campus, she retired, and we are currently filling that position. So I get the opportunity to wear a lot of hats at the moment, but what that means for you all is nothing really has changed. I'm still the person that you can ask questions to, and we'll change things occasionally and hopefully make your lives somewhat easier, but also probably harder in some regards, as well as I know most of you blame me for or accuse me of. So I still get to do that also. So just a little heads up on some changes in our office. A couple of the updates I do have. One of the things in my new role we've begun to look at and we're working on is the process known formally as change of campus. I know a lot of you probably, I have in the past used that term to really identify anytime a student took coursework from another WVU system location. We're actually working to clarify and clean up some of the confusion there. We're currently working on an intra-WVU dual enrollment and visiting campus form. Actually have the form basically done and the process change done. However, there is some forthcoming information regarding assessment that has caused a slight delay in unveiling that. However, the way that this dual enrollment and visiting campus should be considered or viewed as it's one term away or during the same term. So if you're going to be coming, if you're a student and you want to take a course at Tech or at Potomac State, and your plan is to stay fully enrolled at the Morgantown campus, this is the form that you're going to use. And as soon as the form is complete and the process is up, we'll share that through the AAC listserv. But we're duplicating basically the AP workflow that we currently have in place. Student will submit the form, it'll go to their advisor, be approved, and then we'll work with the various campuses to get them registered and everything. And what this will also do is at the end of each term, once grades roll, we'll be able to more systematically pull the reports and push that work back from the other campus into their WVU Morgantown record. So as much as I love to say one WVU, obviously Banner is not, and in terms of coursework, that's still considered transfer work in the system. And I know during the current process, we've had students have had coursework kind of out in the ether as they visited one of our other campuses and have come back and have had to petition and get a hold of us to make that happen. We're going to be more systematic and hopefully clean up a lot of those cracks that students in their courses were following in. And then the change of campus form. This is something that the WVU Office of Admissions is working on. This is going to be a permanent move. The student is physically, moving from the Potomac State campus. They're getting their associates and they're coming to Morgantown, or they're changing major and going into Beckley. and they're going to graduate from that campus, they're going to do a change of campus form. So that change of campus should become synonymous with a permanent move from one WVU system campus to another. And this is a new form that admissions will be bringing forward here very soon. It's going to be managed in their office. So those will be forthcoming. Like I said, we have a slight change to some of the way assessment works, and as soon as that is cleared up, I will provide information on the link through our page, as well as a new form, and we can begin utilizing that for the summer term and the fall as well. And once admissions has theirs done, we'll also provide that information also. But that's really one of the big changes for this spring that we've been working on to clean up as we move forward and try to be more streamlined as students move in and throughout our campuses. Another area of confusion that we've had in the past are readmit students who have been on suspension or fell below a 2.0 and left WVU and have come back. As you know, students who take coursework without our permission receive the NOEQ 1 NT coding for all of that coursework. But we realized there was some confusion because that's not necessarily transient in the same way. It's not beholden to the same policies, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're gone more than a year, you're outside of the scope of the transient policies. What we had was students who were served their suspension, came back, but took coursework while they were gone. We gave them the NOEQ code, 1NT code with the needs transient approval because that was our SOP, and that caused some confusion as folks were submitting transient forms to get that coursework brought in when it was actually their GPA that was prohibiting that coursework to be articulated. So what we're doing is we've actually had the admissions office, we've worked with them to change the language in what's known as the transfer course title. So for students who took coursework while suspended below a 2.0 GPA, all those courses will still have the NOEQ 1NT code because we don't want to add any more codes to our alphabet soup that I've already created. But it'll say insufficient grade average. So this will distinguish between actual violations of the transient policy. These will show insufficient grade average. And what we will do, my team will do, is at the end of every term, we will review the students who have these courses. And if they've raised their GPA above a 2.0, we will automatically go back and articulate that coursework. So there will be no work needed by the advisors, no transient forms, et cetera, for this case. This will be cleaned up automatically by my team on the back end at the end of every semester. So hopefully making it a little bit more clear when you look at their coursework and degree works, but also taking some work off of you all to help getting that done. We'll do that automatically. And since we had our good friends from ROTC here today, I feel it important to do a general reminder regarding military credit and prior learning. Just a reminder that since fall of last year, fall of 2020, anything on a JST is no longer automatically processed by admissions as transfer credit. Their JST is in their BDM. You still have access to see that like you do any other college transcript. It must be requested and approved as part of our prior learning process. And we do follow the ACE guidelines in terms of hours. Now, there are a myriad of occupations that students can bring to may have on their GST, and if they believe that deserves to be awarded an equivalent, we do have a process through our TERR system that they can petition and get that possibly reviewed. Just given the scope of a lot of those occupations, we can confidently say that most of them probably won't have a direct equivalent unless it's something like public speaking or maybe something in the leadership area, but they will be open credit. And it'll also fall in the ACE guidelines. We will award that based on either lower division, so when processed without being reviewed, it'll have NOEQ 100, or it can be upper level and it'll have NOEQ 300. So especially the RBA folks and some other programs that need upper division work, we will differentiate that based on the ACE recommendation for their occupation. So I know I have a tendency to be long-winded and have a lot to bring to the table, so I try to condense it and do the important things that we're working on right now. And those are the major policy and procedure things that we're working on. Do want to give everybody an update that hopefully you all have had the opportunity to work with Ms. Deborah Conaway in my office. We just completed all of the spring admits as we reached the ad drop date. She has transitioned into the fall cohort as the new admits are being processed by the admissions office, so she's working through those as well. And if you obviously need or have any questions regarding her work, please feel free to reach out. We're expecting already a larger class based on early numbers for transfer students. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we're always happy to help answer any questions or address any students who are reaching out to you. We can prioritize them a little higher in our to-do list if they're already contacting you as their advisor regarding their transfer work. So with that, I will say thank you again for having me, and I will entertain any questions, comments, or concerns regarding transfer credit or anything that falls under the purview of the OUR transfer team, or tour, as some of you have affectionately named us. And I just saw the shout out, so I apologize. Thanks for the shout out, Sarah and Kit.
Taylor, I just have a quick question for you. When you mentioned that you're going to review kind of that work that's listed as 1MT after every semester, does that include summer terms, or will that only include fall and spring terms?
So we will run, once grades roll for every term, we will review that. So we have a report that we can look at to search for those specific courses. And we'll just compare, we'll look at the students' cumulative GPA at that point. And if they are above a 2.0 at the end of, once the grades are rolled for that term, then we will go back and articulate that credit to whatever it should have been. Now, maybe an OEQ 100, or maybe an equivalent, but we'll switch it from 1MT and bring in those grades, because that's the big thing for those students, is their grades aren't coming in to inflate their GPA and push them above a cumulative 2.0.
Great, thanks, Taylor.
Only one question. I don't know if that's good or bad, Taylor. I'm doing.
I know. I was just gonna say. I figured we'd have more questions, Taylor. I feel like usually you get a lot of questions, but I think we've seen some great strides in the transfer process over the last few years, and I agree with everyone in the comments. Deborah is a very wonderful addition, and she's always a joy to work with.
Yeah. And to that, as some of those things have been projects have been completed, and we're getting more streamlined, you may see other folks in our office being the ones making that outreach, but the protocol and the comm plan and all the things will stay the same. It might not be just Deborah, might be getting some help so that we can get through those students faster. But if you see some other names in the DegreeWorks notes, they're still OUR transfer team members. We're just trying to get ahead of the curve as we hope to increase our transfer enrollment.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Taylor? Okay. All right. Jen, Michelle, do you either of you have anything else to add for today's workshop?
I think I'm good. I'm not sure if Jen has anything.
Only to say Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back. Stay warm and disease-free if at all possible. No variants for us with any luck. And please let us know so we can discuss any issues that you have regarding advising issues or technology and so forth, so that the executive committee can address those and hopefully get some attention to those. Okay. Next month, we will be focused on, of course, as soon as I start to talk about it, I forget.
I think degree works is one of the topics.
Navigate.
Navigate is the topic. Or no, I think it is degree works. And schedule builder. It's actually schedule builder. We had a lot of people mention that this past semester, we had a number of students that we found as advisors who were struggling with their schedules when their priority registration date passed, because they were not savvy enough to check their selected course schedule against the master schedule of courses for any particular notes, restrictions, etc. So we're going to kind of try to have a presentation on that. You know, in the February meeting, just as students actually will be beginning the pre-registration process in March. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, happy to stay around and talk or answer any questions that anybody may have. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and have a great week.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in February. Right, Jen, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Yeah, go ahead.